Milo from Atlantis here. I'm coming to you today with another update about my book TarotSaur, and today's video is going to be about essentially the mental process I've gone through in deciding, one, if I'm going to be self-published in all of this, or if I really am going to go with an author, or sorry, not an author, a publisher, and then eventually coming back around to not wanting to get a publisher for this and be completely self-published. So that's the short version of this. Let me tell you the medium version. I was looking at my usual printer, the same one that I had for my last book project, Vamptober 2021, and I revisited it, and that project was about 32 pages long, and I think that included the covers, and I got 50 of them printed. And I got them printed at comic book size, a copy of Watchmen, to decide the scale on that. And looking back at the receipt for it, it was about $400 to get it done through Cat Print the way that I had it done. 400 and, change or somewhat some other. This book is more than twice that size, and I want it printed in hardback, which is not an option through Cat Print at the time of making this video. Plugging it in and seeing how much it would be to get even 25 copies with all of my specifications was going to be about $900 for 25 books. And so I started thinking, well, do I want a publisher? Because they might be able to eat that upfront cost. Turns out no, because the options that I explored included Underwood Miller Publishing, and I have a clip here of me on a phone call with them.
That is a self-publishing, right? Where you pay us a minimal fee, a comprehensive custom package where we do your marketing, we do all the publishing part, we publish your book in the market, right? And we market that as well to get you sales. But in that case, we take an upfront amount, right? And then all the sales, the 100% royalties goes towards you, man.
Okay, that's interesting.
1,500 to $2,000, right? Somewhere around that amount, yeah.
Okay. I decided that they were not a good option for me. So instead of going with them, I asked them questions about how they would handle the marketing aspects of it, and they told me that they would go through websites and sources like Ingram Spark, which until this point in time I had no foreknowledge of. I looked into that, and then I also looked into Barnes & Noble Press, both of which seem like the options that I'm going to be going with. Ingram Spark has a lot more in terms of the user's agreement and everything that I wanted to be sure I thumbed through before really going for them. The benefit of having Ingram Spark would be the wide availability of my book should those retailers that work with Ingram Spark choose to order it and supply my books in their stores. So wide market reach would be the reason for wanting Ingram Spark. Barnes & Noble Press, to the best of my knowledge, works through Ingram Spark anyway, but they have the option to have personal books printed. Now, this means that whatever books would be printed through that option would not be widely available, but after plugging in all the credentials and details and page count and all of that, came back with a cost of about $9 and change per book for a printing cost. So as long as I offer my book on my website for more than $9, let's say more than $10, I could make back my money. Plus, if I just used Barnes & Noble Press as a print-on-demand service for any time somebody wanted to order my book. And so that is a really, really appealing option, and I'm definitely going to go with that. But I will also likely go with not only the Ingram Spark large commercial option, but also the Barnes & Noble Press commercial option, just so it's kind of a multi, targeted kind of a thing. I still need to go through reading the rest of the user's agreement for both of those options. on a different note of things, for making the cover, this one tool is kind of worth it to me for using Barnes & Noble Press, because calculating the spine for a book that's, in my case, 70 pages long is the tricky part. When I made my book Vamptober, it wasn't big enough to facilitate a spine, so it was a staple bound, a bunch of pages and then stapled in the center and folded over. But because I want this one to be a hardback, I need to calculate a spine. And I not only need to calculate a spine, I need to calculate a spine for hardcover, which is going to be a different material, different width, different thickness, different setup from even just a paperback tool that calculates how wide the spine is going to be based on how many pages are in your book with the type of paper that you have elected to use. So in my case, I think I'm using the 50-pound just white to print it on. I'm gonna have to look into exactly if that's going to be appropriate, and I think I might have to size up in like thickness and quality of the paper, just because my book is going to be full color. It's not going to be a, novel. It's more going to be an art book with all of the pages being full color. But they have a tool that produces for you a .pdf file with the specifications, the bleed, the spine width, and a little space for the barcode, with instructions based on the specifications of the size of the book that you're making. So as long as it's within a standard size, like in my case an 8x10, you're going to have access to this tool, and it's going to make the entire process of figuring out what you put on your book possible. The file that they prepared, like they generated it for my specific circumstances. So you can see that the spine here, because I have 70 pages, is 1/4 inch wide. And I'm really thrilled about this. I'm kind of over the moon about making a book that's big enough to deserve a hardback release. And I want it to be journal style. So again, it feels like you found this thing in a swamp, or whatever, but I want it to be a really tactile experience, and I want it to be very tangible and satisfying to hold. So this is thrilling for me. So I'm going to be designing the cover here in Krita, because it will let me use those sweet, sweet, delicious, wonderful brushes that I got. The Mamilio Impasto paint brushes through the Krita brush engine. I'll have a link in the description for the source for these brushes, because they're absolutely amazing. I regularly can't believe that you can make it look like real paint with these brushes. It's breathtaking. I really love them. This is going to be my process video for kind of planning out how my covers are going to look. So I'll cut here and emerge with secondary voiceover on that part.